Hi, my name is Brent Dolfo. I am Development Leadership Community Director for Leadership Network. I also help to oversee Leadership Network's work in Europe with the European Church Planting Network. Today we're talking about leadership development and trends that are happening in the whole area of leadership development. A couple of interesting metrics to note. On average in the United States, there are 4,000 new churches that start every year, and that is a great source of leadership drain for existing churches. There's perhaps close to 5,000 multi-site churches now in the United States and Canada. If each of those, even if only 5% of those churches started new campuses every year, that would be 250 new campus pastors that need to be developed every 12 months. One of the things that we're finding as new churches are planted and new campuses are planted, whether that's in North America or Europe, senior pastors or senior leaders look down the bench and find their best people to deploy in those new ventures. Eventually they look down the bench and notice that there's not as many quality leaders in waiting ready for the next opportunity that's coming along, and it's causing them to have to think through, how do I produce leaders? I can't find them as readily as I did 5 years ago. Recently I was in Toronto talking with a large multi-site church, and they said, we've scoured the province of Ontario and cannot find any campus pastors, and we've come to the conclusion is we have to develop our own. That's the only way forward. And I think as large church planting churches, large multi-site churches, or just large churches are finding, the best people to hire are usually the people that they've developed internally. They know their DNA, they know their philosophy, they know what the church is all about, and it's a lot easier transition to take who you have in-house and develop them so they're ready to roll with that next opportunity. What we're finding in leadership development is that most large churches now are customizing their leadership development processes. No longer are they just taking curriculum off the shelf or mirroring what other people are doing, because they recognize that their own DNA, their own systems, their own approach to ministry is very unique. And because of that, they have to figure out what each of their leaders need in the next phase of their development. Language that's developing both in Europe and in North America is the leadership pipeline. Typically there are 4 or 5 levels of the leadership pipeline. It may start with leading yourself, leading others, whether that is in a life group or a small group. It may then move to leading leaders, where you're now overseeing, again, those that are leading the small group systems or various ministries. And finally, you would come to a point where you could then either be on staff or be a campus pastor or plant a church. And so people are having to think through now, what do each of those people need at each of those phases of development so they'll be successful with the next thing that God has called them to do. Again, everything's customized. People often ask me a couple of questions. Is there a silver bullet curriculum that produces leaders? And actually my answer is always no. I said the best curriculum may be something that exists that you can tweak into your own DNA, or something that you may design that's very unique for your situation. A lot of churches have models, whether they were Rick Warren's 100, 200, 300, which is a Sunday morning class size. There's a lot of adaptations coming off that right now, where people are adapting that to their situation, recognizing that people actually have to lead something sometimes before they go to the next class. And then there's like Dave Ferguson at Community Christian, where their model much more is a mentorship model, where every step of the way you're mentoring someone along. And so there's all sorts of models, all sorts of curriculum that are being developed. But the real question is there a fail-safe philosophy or process? Well, Kevin Peck, who's the lead pastor at Austin Stone, would say it this way. At Austin Stone, the easiest way to get fired is not to develop leaders. And what he's really articulating as a church is they've developed a philosophy is leadership development is core to everything that we do. And I find churches that have adopted that kind of philosophy, leadership development is core at everything that we do, that beginning part of philosophy there has been absolutely key to transform everything with leadership development in a church. It's not a program, it's not somebody's job, it's what we're about. We're in the process of putting together another leadership community on leadership development. Again, large churches that want to innovate and learn and develop a leadership pipeline that would serve them for the next leg of the journey. If you're interested in finding out more, feel free to contact me via email at brent.dolfo, Dolfo spelled